So we were told that the Epstein files were going to be released, that they were going to be completely transparent. But when you open the documents and you see entire pages like this completely blacked out, it raises a serious question. If the truth is out, why does so much of it still look like it's being hidden? And once you start looking closely, it doesn't look like transparency. It feels like control, as if it's been designed this way. In this video, I'm not here to speculate. We're trying to answer two specific questions using only what is documented. What did this release actually add to what we already knew? And what does the way these files were released tell us about accountability in this case? Because the how matters just as much as the what. Before this release, a lot of the Epstein story was already public. Jeffrey Epstein began being investigated in the early 2000s. And in 2008, he pled guilty and received a highly controversial non-prosecution deal in Florida. That deal was real, documented, widely criticized. He pled guilty to 36 acts of sex trafficking minors for prostitution. He was supposed to spend 18 months in prison, but after 3.5 months, he received a deal that had never been done in the history of Florida or in the history of the United States. He was free to come and go as he pleased. He was given 6 days, 12 hours a day to work on business. And that doesn't feel like you're being imprisoned. It feels like you're staying there overnight for free and you're being fed. And he still had access to all his money. So by 2019, when Epstein was arrested again, the public already knew several things. He owned private jets, the flight logs existed, civil lawsuits accused him of abusing minors, and photos showed Epstein with politicians, celebrities, and powerful figures. So let's be clear. This release was never meant to reveal that Epstein had access to power. That was already established years ago. What people were waiting for was clarity and how these people were involved. Most people expected these files to function like a verdict. It was going to be a clean list, clear answers, a moment where everything finally made sense. But that's not how this release worked. Instead of explanation, we got volume. 2,000 pages, 8 datasets, and that difference changes everything. In December of this year, 2025, the Department of Justice released multiple official datasets through what they call the Epstein Library. Thousands of pages, photos, transcripts, administrative records, audio files. This wasn't leaked material. It wasn't journalism. This was the federal government formally acknowledging that these records exist and this is what we are releasing. That matters because for the first time, much of what had circulated in fragments has been centralized into an official archive, and that is the real change that this release is allowing us to have. Over the past few days, I've read every page of the Epstein files, and they confirm several things. First, Epstein's operation was extensive and sustained over years. Second, Epstein had documented contact with influential people, including politicians, business leaders, and celebrities. The names have appeared in flight logs. The photos show proximity. But what needs to be clearly understood is that a name in a document or a photo is not proof of a crime. But that proximity still matters. 2 weeks ago, Woody Harrelson came out as someone who had been accused of spending a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein. He admitted it. He said that he feels no shame in doing so. They never did anything illegally, but he is seen in multiple of these photos. And that could be the case for many other people. President Bill Clinton has denied having any involvement in any criminal activity, but he appears in many of the photos. Same thing with President Donald Trump. So we can't make a claim that just because they knew Jeffrey Epstein, that they had involvement in any of these crimes. But proximity still matters, because proximity explains how Epstein was able to operate openly for so long. He wasn't hidden, he was embedded. He was embedded in the culture, in the influence, in the flow of money. But here's where the release becomes controversial. Large portions of the documents are heavily redacted. Entire pages are blacked out. And in some cases, audio files replace names with a steady tone, a low drone. The DOJ says that this is to protect victim privacy, which is essential. But the scale of the redactions raises questions. Some of the redacted material includes entire grand jury transcripts, full sections of testimonies, portions of internal communication that goes far beyond removing victim names. Even some of the lawmakers who supported the Transparency Act have publicly said that the release feels incomplete. So the question isn't why some redactions exist, it's why so much context is missing. And what has to be noted is that these files are so important to understanding what really happened, because in 2019, when Jeffrey Epstein passed away, ruled a suicide, he had yet to be tried. There was no testimony, there was no interrogation yet. He was awaiting trial, and he was refusing to speak. So we don't know his official statement, and they weren't able to get references and cross-examinations from him and from witnesses. So these files are our only link to what is accused to be hundreds of cases of minors being abused in sex trafficking operations. What these files do not give us is just as important as what they do. They do not provide a complete unredacted account of Epstein's network, clear explanations for why investigations stalled, accountability for institutional failures, and the DOJ has acknowledged that over 1 million additional documents still haven't been reviewed. But in the past 48 hours, President Donald Trump has announced that these millions of additional documents will be made public at the beginning of 2026. And that means that we haven't seen the final record yet. And this is where the story stops being about Epstein himself. Because transparency isn't just about releasing the documents. It's about whether the public has the ability to understand what happened and why. A document dump without a narrative creates noise. It shifts interpretation onto the public, while institutions retain control over what's missing, delayed, or withheld. That doesn't prove a conspiracy, but it does demonstrate how accountability can be slowed without being denied. So what do the Epstein files, as we have them now, actually tell us? They tell us that Jeffrey Epstein had access to power. They tell us that the public record is larger than ever, but still incomplete. And they tell us something much deeper. Even when documents are released, truth does not automatically follow. Because transparency without context isn't closure, it's a pause. And the most important parts of this story may still be missing. And that's where the story stands right now. The documents are public for the most part, but the full picture isn't. If more information is released, I'll keep digging and I will bring it here. Thank you for watching The Hidden Media, and please check out some of our other videos and let me know what you thought of this. Thank you and happy holidays.